Yes, Sir Hairless here. Today we have Llora by LARA FABIAN. This is an original song. My last few reactions to Lara have been cover songs. This is from the Mademoiselle Zhivago concert in Moscow 2010, and the song is from an album of the same name, Mademoiselle Zhivago. Every song in that album was composed by Lara and Igor Krutoy, who is accompanying her on the piano in this performance. We've done one song from that album before, that was Mademoiselle Hyde. If you do enjoy this video, please go and check out my reaction to that one afterwards. Card will be up here. Llora means cry, and the lyrics unsurprisingly are about crying. They're on the screen now. It's a deep song, a heartfelt song, emotional, and by the lyrics it looks like it would be perfect for Lara. She is after all one of the best at expressing grief through song. So without further ado, let's get straight into it.
As a woman we experience many things, sometimes extraordinary, sometimes terrible. Here is a song I wrote for Maria Victoria, a victim of too much love, a victim simply of being a woman.
I love the oboe.
Llora sin lágrimas, llora con tu sonrisa, llora con todo y te va a pasar. Llora y se va a caer este dolor inmenso, llora para buscar un
I'm just wondering, un poco, is that not pronounced poco? Sounds like she's going por de paz. Anyway, that's the end of the first verse, so we'll do our first pause here. It helps with copyright, and we'll go over and analyse what we've just heard. If you don't want to hear my analysis, go to the timestamp. That speech she gave at the start.
Here is a song I wrote for Maria Victoria.
Who is Maria Victoria? Is it a friend of hers? If anyone knows, let me know down in the comments. The music comes in, as I mentioned, lovely oboe. I love the oboe. It is one of my favourite instruments in terms of sound.
Of being a woman.
That note there, when it dropped down, we can really hear its tone, its timbre. When the music enters, the oboe and the strings, they're kind of the main instrumental parts that we can hear, the most obvious ones. They're falling, moving down, and the lower parts, they're either static or moving up.
Of being a woman.
Typically, I would say falling is used to indicate sadness in music, which makes sense. We have it in the higher, more prominent parts. In the lower parts that aren't falling though,
A woman.
one part that rises, we hear this chromatic inflection, which I think speaks for itself. And the bass part underneath that, which is static, underneath this chromatic inflection, is just playing this note. Then it rises and rises again, so it goes this rise up. What is this? Is this hope? Is it hopeful? And then, which causes a suspension with the oboe. If I move them up the octave, it goes, which is a 4/3 suspension, because in C, which is note 1, it moves from the 4th note to the 3rd note. That suspension resolves and we finish with this lovely C major chord. But it's quickly refuted by this falling line, which is just the reverse of the bass line I spoke about at the start. The music continues, we get more suspension, sustained notes in the strings which cause dissonances with the other moving parts, but not too discordant as to sound strange. It's very moving, a very cinematic style of sound here that Igor has produced. Speaking of cinema, drama, Lara comes in. She is the queen of stage performance. I mean, she's as much an actress as she is a singer. Or is she? I don't know. I truly believe she feels the music so much that she doesn't need to act, really. The emotion and the passion for the music is just flowing through her body. So just before she enters, the piano comes in with this arpeggiated figure.
Llora sin lágrimas, llora con tu sonrisa, llora con todo.
This first phrase, there's a lot of her lower register, a low airy sound. In my previous reaction, which was Calling You, card up here if you're interested in seeing that one, I said I've not seen too much of that from her before, so it's interesting to get that right at the start now.
Llora con todo y te va a pasar.
I feel like a broken record when I speak about Lara. Every performance that I've seen, she's able to get so much variety into each phrase. We have a variety of voice type, head, chest, blend. A variety of sound type, is it a full sound or a more airy sound? And a variety of ranges in combination with them. Is it high or is it low? And that melody we just heard, I really like the end of that phrase.
Y te va a pasar.
So that's these notes. That phrase could just be this instead. But there's so much more drama, I feel, in this fall. That interval there, that's a minor sixth. I've said in many of my previous videos that this is one of my favourite intervals. I don't know why, I just love it. And in a kind of counterintuitive way, she does emphasise this fall, this big drop. How? Well, through her sibilance. Notice the S sound that she makes just before doing it. By going s, she's cutting off the note she's singing. You can't go s whilst singing a tune, a pitch. Do-s, it just cuts it off. So in terms of pitch the notes, we have the first note, then the s sound, and then the next pitch. So that gap in between really exaggerates this drop. And the melody itself, it really is everywhere. High, low.
Este dolor inmenso, llora para buscar.
A huge range whilst keeping the overall sentiment fairly contained. This first verse, we've just had the piano accompanying Lara, and there was some orchestra coming in for the next verse where we pause. So let's continue.
Llora y te escucharé, llora como yo canto, olvídalo que te mata el corazón. Llora y compartiremos la pena que tu cuerpo no tenía que descubrir. Llora, no tengas miedo, soy un alma sincera. Llora, amiga, amiga mía. Déjala huir. Amor no tiene. Deja tu pena en un rincón. Abrí la puerta y vámonos. ¿Para qué morir? Vaya adelante. Si quieres aire y felicidad, libertad.
Nice end of the phrase there as well.
Siéntate aquí conmigo.
And I really like the aesthetic overall. Nice stage, isn't it? These lights everywhere and the blue. From where we left off last time, that's the real first sign of growth now with Lara's vocals. We get a chesty sound and much more of a straight tone, which then kind of grows through and we get vibrato at the end. That next phrase was a fuller sound than we'd been hearing previously with those first couple of verses. Before, it was quite fragmented due to the airiness of the sound, almost making her and the overall sound a bit vulnerable. Lara does do this kind of pullback to that right here. But then she reverses and goes back in the opposite direction, in the direction of strength. She just goes straight through, doesn't breathe. Which acts as the zenith of this melodic growth arc that we're seeing. But she chooses to end the phrase nicely, softly. But then straight afterwards, of course, she switches and goes straight back to the powerful sound. She's keeping us guessing as to what is coming next. Which always makes a performance more gripping. The horns coming through there on this note. And Lara's melody is this note, so they have a direct clash. And then the horns move down. That is a horn. Is there a horn in here? Ah, yeah, I think there we go. Right in the back corner over there. And the end of that phrase just before we paused again for the second time. It's such a nice phrase. I love it. The word freedom. It really does sound freeing, doesn't it? Like all this tension has just been released. Yeah, it's a nice song. Very calming overall, I feel. And in a weird way, a bit more uplifting as well than I would have been expecting based on the title, Llora. Well, let's carry on and see what the second half is about.
Siéntate aquí conmigo, háblame de tus sueños, los que dibujan niños tan feliz. Siéntate un momento, luchamos en silencio y que vuelva un cielo azul.
Just love the ending of that phrase on Libertad. And it's weird because it's such a, I don't want to say standard cadence. It is quite a standard cadence. But I think the context, as always, is so important. The music, the infrastructure that's been built up until these moments, it just works really, really well. These pictures in the background, let's find one. Right here. I mean, that looks like Lara to me Is it from a music video or something like that? Or are they actual pictures of her from a time in her life when she might have been particularly down? There were pictures of the guy earlier as well. Yeah, here. And then one of him carrying her as well. I just googled Lara's boyfriend at this time, or partner. I don't think that's him. Anyway, to go back to this one, it's ironic because the lyrics at this point are talking about picturing such happy children. It's interesting that there's no beat in this song. There's no percussion, really. Well, that's not actually interesting or surprising because of the subject matter. Either way, there is no percussion, and that makes this timpani that we get, and I think there was a cymbals clash as well. That's a nice surprise, you know, just for a bit of extra added drama. And I like what she did here as well. So the music was going along nicely. I was thinking, how nice is this phrase? And then another surprise from Lara. So she delays her entry, and then we get speech effectively, even though she is talking at the same pitch. So it is like half singing, talking. But the effect, that's melodic and rhythmic variety in one. She then also changes the second half of that phrase. I think she is very much aware that this song overall is a very calming one that you can kind of drift away when you're listening to. So she makes sure to keep us engaged, to do these little changes here and there. Yeah, it's definitely a nice one. Let's carry on until the end. We're approaching the end now. What a way to end. What a way to end. Nice big ending. We'll come back to that in a second. Just a couple of points before we wrap up. So here we go. We're building up to something, and that's where we get this key change. Which is a bit higher than before, just to compare to a previous time we heard this phrase. And then again now. We know Igor loves to do this with his music. We've seen it before. Moving up towards the end to literally and figuratively really drive home this idea of growth towards the end of a performance, and of course throughout the performance, building up to this ending. And the ending, very large sound overall. This belted note by hers, we played it twice. That note is a C sharp, which is one note higher than this one, which is what I call the wow operatic tenor moment. So even though she is a woman, it's still high to sing belted like that. Overall, this is definitely a song by her that is a bit more belty in general. And I do really like the variety and unexpectedness that we so often see in her other performances. This is, I think, only my 9th time ever hearing Lara Fabian, so I'm by no means an expert, but we didn't get quite as much of this variety in this performance than the ones that I have seen previously. But we still did get it. She makes sure to always do it, just as I pointed out several times earlier. As usual, as expected, I guess at this point, very, very good performance. She's just such a great performer. Really, really, really good. And a really nice, calm song. A lot more calm than I was expecting, considering it's by Igor as well. A bit of a surprise for me, and I love these musical surprises. Comment down below other songs by Lara you'd like to see me do, and as always, thank you very much for watching. Would appreciate a like and subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, would like to support me and join the community, you can do so by joining the Patreon linked on the screen now, or YouTube membership, or buy me a coffee linked below, and I will see you next time.